105.5 WDHA here on All Mixed Up. You know who my next guest is, Carl Palmer from, of course, Emerson, Lake and Palmer in Asia. Carl, good morning and welcome to DHA here in New Jersey.
Hey, Jim, it's a pleasure to be with you, and I love New Jersey. Yes, why not, indeed. It's good to get back into America, and we're going to kick off on the East Coast. We've got 10 concerts, as you well know. It's quite an interesting event because this is really all to do with me finding this live footage of Keith and Greg playing, which was so good. And the audio was so good because everything was recorded individually on these 2 nights. It was 2 nights at the Royal Albert Hall in London. And it was recorded in the mid-90s. It was actually released, so it was all vetted by the group and everything at the time. And we released it on Sanctuary. Sanctuary got sold during the release to Universal. This DVD went down the tubes and that was it. It was all over. So I was looking at the numbers yesterday, actually, and globally it sold about 12,000 copies, which for me right now is perfect. And I'll tell you why. I spent the last couple of years looking at holograms. I went to Canada. I met people in LA. I've seen the Whitney Houston. I've seen the Ronnie James Dio, like we all have. I actually went to a Frank Zappa concert. And it was all a bit spooky for me. And I didn't really like it, and I was a bit worried because I wanted to pay some kind of tribute to the guys, but I wanted to do it as honestly as possible and in the best way. And they were both techno freaks, so the hologram thing, yes, they would have liked to have investigated, but I think once they would have seen it, they would have come to the same conclusion that I came to, that if you can find live footage with a great soundtrack that you can remix and do whatever of the people themselves, that's got to be better than a hologram. So I've got it, and I've got 6 tunes. I've got 6 songs, probably the most precious songs I'll ever get for the rest of my life now, because this is something where I've managed to edit myself out of everything because I'm going to be in situ on the stage. And the situation is this: we've got 6 songs, Greg singing, Keith playing, huge screens each side of the stage, 12 foot by 10 foot, one downstage, 16 by 14. They'll always be at the side. I'll be in the middle on the back screen with some vintage footage we'll put up there. And I'll be in the center of the stage playing along with them. I'll have my band as well. Paul Bielatovich on lead guitar, Simon Fitzpatrick on bass. But what we'll be able to create here, I'll be able to play with Keith and Greg things like Welcome Back, My Friends, things like Lucky Man, From the Beginning, Paper Blood. There's, as I say, there's 6 of them. One of them actually is an instrumental, and it's called Creole Dance, and I couldn't find it anywhere else, but it was recorded this night at the Royal Albert Hall in London, mid-90s, as I said. And it was a piece of music that started off as a piano solo, and we were always talking about it as something that could be developed, but Keith would play it as a piano solo and we'd think about it, get used to it and see where we could take it. A bit like, Tarkus sort of began that way. It wasn't a piano solo, but all little bits put together. Anyway, the piano solo that night was sensational. He played like a demon. Well, he did most nights, I have to say. 99% of the time he was on his game. Anyway, he played really well that night. So what I've managed to do, I've managed to craft some drum parts, which are more in a kind of orchestral percussion way rather than rock drummer, to accompany him on screen. I'll be in situ in the middle of the stage. They can project me on the back as well, obviously. Keith will be left and right, but we'll be playing together a piece of music that ELP never played together. This is the only time it's ever happened. So it's a little bit special, this piece. And obviously we've got all the classic things like Lucky Man I've got, with the great Moog solos and all of that. So all in all, coupled with my band, my band will play things like Tarkus, the full version, Carmina Burana, Hoedown from the Rodeo Suite. So it's about an hour, 40-minute set, something like that. But it seems to be the most honest way to go about saying the return of ELP, because this is the best it could ever be. Now, the audio is absolutely superb. superb. Everything was recorded individually. So any problems that I had with any sound, which we didn't have because we released it on DVD, I can revisit anyway today, and I can, I can make it sound a bit fatter or whatever. I can, juice it up a bit. So we were very lucky that the audio is of the best. I've got to be honest and say, when you've got flashing lights, when you've got red lights, magenta colored lights, sometimes it's not quite as bright as what you'd like it to be. But on big screens, it's like being at the concert. So it's not IMAX quality, but I'll tell you what, it's a high-end quality. It was the mid-90s. It wasn't IMAX. How could it be? You know what I mean? So from my point of view, this seems to be the best way, the most honest way. And by the way, both the Emerson family and the Lake family are totally behind this project. It's a one-off. It's 10 days only. We have no plans to do anything else. They're totally behind it. And they, are so pleased that I'm doing it. And I know that Greg and Keith would have ended up saying, Carl, this would be the way we'd want to do it. I can tell you now, if I was up there and they were down here, this is the way it would go on as I'm doing it.
Carl Palmer, my guest this morning here at 105.5 Deputy DHA on All Mixed Up. The date, by the way, in our area is November 22nd at the Shea Center on the campus of William Paterson University. Carl, how emotional do you expect this to be playing with your two partners again?
So I've been asked that question a few times now, and I can see it's quite important. Let me tell you, the editing for 6 songs, because it was already done, I could get in there and try and get me out, because you don't need to see me on this video. You need to see them, and I need to have the best possible shots. So because it was a 5-camera shoot, I could go into it and I could go through all the bits and pieces, and wow, they both looked great, sounded great. So I was very, very pleased. So emotion was on that first 4 hour of editing. I edited here in this room, along with my friend in Florida. And that was quite emotional. That was quite emotional going back, because I hadn't played with Keith and Greg since 2012, the High Voltage Festival here in London, which was the first of the big prog rock festivals. So that was a bit of a deal, But by the time we got to the second sort of editing, the second sort of day we decided to put aside and start editing from now and carry on, as I say, about 9 weeks this time, the emotion had gone. It was men at work. It was men at work, I can't say that on that first night when I'm on stage with them and they're on these screens and we're playing together as a group, it's not going to be emotional. But I'm through the emotion of going through, the video, the DVD, as it were. I'm through that now because, well, be honest with you, there's 7 seconds I need to change in Lucky Man, which is not quite right. And I've had words, I had words yesterday with my friend Steve over in Buffalo, upstate New York. So that'll be looked at later this afternoon. So I'm through the emotional side. I've got to get it right for them, and I've got to get it right for the families, because we're all in this together, And just so it's very, very clear here, this is something, I didn't have to do. I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it for them because technology is allowing me. So why not? And we had the goods, we had the product, which could be exploited, really. That's what's happening here, but only with the wishes of the family, which we've got. And the families, both of them, the Emersons and the Lakes, are participating with me 100% in this whole project, financially, backing wise, support, you name it, they're in there. And that's the only way I could do it. And we're doing it. 10 days, one off. That's it.
The legendary Carl Palmer, my guest this morning here at 105.5 WDHA. Carl, you've mentioned a couple of times the band members you have with you as well, who will be performing with you at this date, November 22nd at the Shea Center. Tell us about the musicians.
So it's Paul Bielatovich on lead guitar. So, I've never had a keyboard player in my band. Once Keith passed, that was it. I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to approach Emerson, Lake and Palmer's music differently. I wanted to give it sort of a different deal, because ELP's music has been played by string quartets, jazz quartets, metal bands, jazz orchestras. I wanted to do it in a different way using guitars. Now, a lot of people obviously were looking to see Keith Emerson or a Keith Emerson clone come out with me and play, but I wouldn't do that. So I chose guitar because right now, I think Paul's been with me 14 years, 15 years. I mean, I lose count. If ELP could have had a guitar player, we would have done, but we could never find one who could play all these licks and do this stuff. Paul Bielatovich could. But obviously he was too late to be in that band. So I decided to go this way using guitar, triggering keyboard sounds from the guitar, which we can now. Technology allows us to do that, which we do. And Simon Fitzpatrick, who once played a 6-string bass, now plays a Chapman Strict, which is 10 strings. So he can play all the root notes, all the bottom, all the meat and potato stuff, and he can trigger synthesizer sounds as well. So we have this big sound for guitars, because they're sounding like synths and sounding like guitars. And that's how I wanted to put the music forward. And they're both great musicians, they're young. Well, I think Paul's coming up to 40, and well, that's young compared to me. So from my point of view, it's just been a breath of fresh air, and it still is. And now to put the two things together is a dream come true, really. As I say, they're just fantastic players. And in this environment, I think it just shows the complete spectrum of ELP music.
And again, the date in our area, one of 10 on this tour, November 22nd, Shea Center on the campus of William Paterson University. I know after this, sometime in 2023, you're going back out with Asia, which is something I think that a lot of people are going to be looking forward to, Carl.
Yeah. So what we've got here is, Jim, is a 40th anniversary. Which should have been last year. For the first Asia album, which was huge, as you know, heat of the moment, only time will tell, Soul Survivor. Anyway, we went out a few years back, about 2018, and we did a support, I think, was it Journey? Yeah, I think with Journey. Anyway, we had the opportunity to go out last year, and we were going to team up with our old friend, Alan Parsons. And Alan's been a friend for many years, a great guy. Not just because he's English, he is a nice person. In a big serious. Anyway, Alan had a back problem which needed looking at straight away, which he's had done. He's through it. It's all good. He's recovered and he's ready to go. But there was a recuperation time. So we heard about it and we said, look, we'll cancel the Asia tour so we can go out together in 2023. Why not? A lot of promoters wanted the double header, as we call it. So we said, yeah, no, we just enjoy touring with Alan, great guy, and we think the show musically adds up. So we'll be starting round about February next year. And I believe, as I speak, I believe there's about 20 concerts on the table. There's 20 for sure, and there's some, iffing and ahhing, so there might be 23 at the end of the day. And we have in the band myself, yours truly, Jeff Downs on keyboards, original member. We have a new singer and lead guitar player, and that is Mark Bonnier. Now, Mark Bonnier used to be in the Keith Emerson band, and Keith always raved about Mark Bonnier, and I checked him out, and I've spoken to him many times. I haven't played with him yet, to be honest. And great guy, great musician. So Mark is heading the band up, lead vocals and lead guitar. And on bass guitar, who we've been using for the last tours that we've done, is Billy Sherwood, who's also in Yes. So that's the setup. Steve Howe won't be with us, not on this particular tour, but who knows what the future might bring. So it'll be Mark Bonnier, Billy Sherwood, Jeff Downs and Carl Palmer, Asia Return, with them, Alan Parsons. So
definitely something to look forward to, no doubt about it.
Alan puts on a great show, by the way, a great show.
November 22nd, Shea Center on the campus of William Paterson University. You can get your tickets at WPUNJ.edu. Once again, that's WPUNJ.edu. Carl Palmer, thank you so much for your time. It's been fascinating speaking with you this morning. Best of luck.
Jim. You can also get tickets. I've set up a special thing for the Emerson, Lake and Palmer show now. That you can get the tickets on my site. If you can go anywhere, but I've set it up so people can buy it directly from my site, and you can buy them directly from the Emerson, Lake, Palmer site. It's not Emerson, Lake and Palmer. It's emersonlakepalmer.com. The tickets are available on those two sites as well. Whatever is convenient. All I can say to everyone is that the tickets have been selling unbelievably well, believe it or not. And everyone has been quite surprised, I must confess. It's a one-off. It's a one-off. I have no plans to do it. I haven't discussed any more with the family. We just want to do this 10 days, and I want to know I've done it. It's a bit of a selfish thing, I'll be honest with you, Jim. I want to know that I've done it, and I've done it right, and I've ticked that box. And who knows where we'll go from here? I have no idea. But it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. I appreciate your time.
Take care.